Okay, here we are. So welcome everyone. Let me just hit the record button here for those of you watching live. All right. Welcome everyone. My name is Coach Lacey and this is Rise and Shine with Morning Moon. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. Be sure to do so, or you can hit the follow button wherever you have found me on the big wild web. Today, I am showing up and talking about emotional hardship and what to do when you are going through the storm. And I myself am showing up in the middle of an emotional fallout, family drama, and a weekend that literally felt like a tsunami on my heart. And today, right now, I'm just sitting with the aftermath of a couple of different family and friend dramas. I've been caught up in the storm of drama, and it has just reminded me as to why I myself need to anchor in and what to do when the storms hit. You know how it goes: family drama, heartbreak, grief, spiritual fatigue, literally spiritual fatigue that makes you question every single thing in your life, how you showed up, what you said, what they said, all of the different things. And I'm not physically in the same state as the people involved, but emotionally, I have been quite invested in the drama of the day and trying to hold space. I can't talk today, guys. Trying to hold peace and trying to help people find, um, trying to hold space and trying to help people find that peace is really difficult. And it's made especially difficult when people are not willing to take a good hard look at themselves, a good hard look at the situation, and take personal responsibility. It's also very difficult when people enable each other and we're not able to take an objective look and say, this is what happened, this was my contribution, and this is how we're going to fix it. A lot of times people get stuck in the drama of the matter and they get stuck in the story, and that becomes a hindrance to being able to heal, especially in family systems, right? When we get stuck in these old patterns, we get stuck in the story of what used to be, what we wish it could be, what happened, all of these different things. And especially when mental, physical, or verbal abuse is involved, it can be really difficult to move past some of those things. And when we are trying to navigate chaos and we are feeling hurt inside, sometimes people lash out at each other and they say things they don't mean. They show up in ways that are less than loving. And then it just perpetuates the cycle. And then it becomes the blame game of, well, you did, he did, all these he said, she said bullshit. And it just doesn't, it just doesn't work out. And for the long term, it becomes more and more drama and more hurt and more pain. And it just adds to the chaos and trauma of our story. It's hard. And trying to hold the space for people to vent and to share their story and to help guide them towards a more peaceful and loving way. It can be really, really, really difficult when people are not, aware of how they showed up in the situation, and they're not willing to take personal responsibility. And the thing that's really hit me like a freight train today is I can't save people, and neither can you. You can't save people who won't do what it takes to save themselves. And that's a really difficult pill to swallow. It's a very difficult pill to swallow, especially when the person that you are attempting to hold space for is in a situation where they really need to pick themselves up by their bootstraps and do something to make a change, but they just won't, and they don't see how they contributed, and they don't see how their words and their actions affected other people. But words matter, and the tone of voice matters, and the way that we treat people, it matters. And it really shows what's going on in our hearts with the words that we say. And like I said, we can't save people. We can't save people. We can listen, we can care, we can pray, but we can't carry their healing for them. We can't carry their backpack for them up that mountain, as my mother likes to say. And while it's beautiful and it's well intentioned, um, it it can be a weight that sinks us down as the people who are trying to hold space. It can be a weight to hold those things for other people. It's like putting rocks in your backpack when someone, it's like having, my mom always uses, carry your own backpack up the mountain. That's a really great analogy because we all have a backpack that we're carrying. And if, someone isn't able to carry their backpack, sure, you can take a little bit of the load off, but eventually if they load your backpack up with the rocks, you're going to be weighed down too, right? And, we have to be really careful how we show up when we're having conflict. If someone isn't being, nice to you, how do you resolve that conflict? Do you resolve the conflict by being brash back? Do you resolve the conflict by showing them a bit of their own medicine? Or can we really take a step back and an objective look at ourselves and how we're contributing to the situation? And again, recognizing that words have weight. People don't think words have weight, but they do. You might not remember if someone, you know, if so, you might not remember if something physical happened to you, but I can guarantee you're going to remember if someone said something to you that really stuck you in the heart. You'll remember that for the rest of your life. You know, you might not remember all the times that they were nice to you. You might not remember all the good things that they did. And one negative word can unravel 25 years of good deeds if you just say the wrong thing in the wrong tone of voice to someone. It can just really trigger some of those old hurts and hangups that people have. And it's a scar on our heart. It is a scar on our heart when it is tangled up. We get tangled up in so many webs of fear, of pain, pride. Pride is a huge one. My family is riddled with pride. Every single one of them is full of pride, including myself. I can be very prideful. But the pursuit of being right isn't worth it, you know? And the pursuit of things that don't matter really just doesn't, it's not worth it, because when we are trying to be right or we're trying to have the upper hand, the things that can come out of our mouth when we're angry, it can really sting and it can leave a scar on your heart for years to come, and it can burn bridges that you will never be able to rebuild. So watch your words. Watch your words, watch how you show up in the world, and watch how you talk to the people in your life and how you talk to people you love. I am totally guilty of being harsh with my tongue and saying things that can be later held on to and put scars on people's hearts. It stings, and it creates trauma for other people with our words. Trauma doesn't always come from physical hurts. Trauma a lot of the time can come from words. And words have weight, so we need to be mindful of what we say to people, especially in anger. What begins in anger ends in shame, and we need to really remember that when we open our mouth and are having conflict with other people. And consequently, um all of our hurts and habits and hangups affect other people, whether we think they do or not. And they affect the people around us, and people get tired of dealing with it. People get tired of dealing with dysfunction. They yearn for healing, And if we're tangled up in our hearts full of scars, then we're just going to continue this cycle of sadness and fear and hate and saying things that we don't really mean, and being unreasonable and not willing to make a change, you know? And this weekend I really this weekend I was really faced with a lot of conflict management within two sides, different sides of my family. There's different things going on, and one side is having a conflict and the other is having some health issues. And that's a whole different animal. That's a whole different conflict. And so, I heard words from my family members that were, said to each other that were meant to sting. They were meant to stab. They were meant to be sharp because they wanted to hurt other people who were hurting them. And that's not the way that we do things. I myself have had the sting of being told I wasn't good enough, and then offered some shallow, hardly thought out apology in the next breath, the snide comments and the backhanded compliments or the backhanded words that people say, and it hurts. And I have delivered those things as well. I have been snide and I have been snarky and I have been backhanded, and it has ripped a hole in my once strong family. And I've been selfish, and I have done things and said things that I wish that I could take back. But I've also know in my heart that I have worked really hard to grow past a lot of these things and to heal and to become somebody that I'm proud of, and to practice what I preach and to show up in a way that's healing instead of harmful, And when people I love refuse to see my growth, and when they're clinging onto a version of me that just doesn't exist anymore, that hurts. And I'm sick of it. And I'm tired of being held to this person that I don't even know anymore. I am tired of cleaning up the messes that my old self has created. And it really makes me question, what the hell is the point of all of this? What's the point? What's the point? Why keep trying to be the bridge when people keep trying to set fire to both of the sides, Like, what's the point? And I really had to sit with that this morning, especially. I had to sit with, how on earth is anything expect to be built, if we're just cutting our nose off to spite our face, if we are just arguing with one another and continuing the cycle of hate and being rude and not thinking about others and focusing on the wrong things. There's a lot of focus on physical assets and a lot of focus on money and a lot of focus on things that just don't matter. And having lost as many people as I have and walked through the pain that I have and walked through every facet of life, pretty much, of being in moments of trial, moments of triumph, moments of addiction, moments of sobriety, moments of having money, moments of not having money, I've learned one thing that I can pass on to people is that the things that matter most are not things. They're people. And it's how we show up and how we treat other people. That is the only thing that matters. Because when the people that we love are gone and they're dead and gone, we're not going to focus on the things that they did to hurt us. We're going to focus on the things that we loved about those people. We're going to focus on the things that we missed. We're not going to sit here and focus on, oh, they did this, that, and the other thing. I mean, maybe if you're still stuck in your trauma, you're going to, and then you have work to do. But then also, we're not going to focus on how much money they had or how much stuff they had. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Money, money, money. I could just puke. I'm so sick and tired of people fighting over stuff, things, and money. It's part of the reason I exited stage left out into my own life so that I could not have to be held to whatever standard that was set for me to be able to make something of myself. People wonder why I have lived far away from my home and my family for 20 years. That's the answer. Because there was an unrealistic standard that was set a long time ago that I could not meet. So for money or for whatever. And to I'm not willing to jump through the hoops that it takes to be considered good enough. So I'll create my own life and I'll create my own standards. And I'll never expect people that I love to jump through those hoops just to be a part of my life or to gain what I've, built in my life and pass on. I will never have to, expect X, Y, and Z other than just love and appreciation and kind words. And, if you do well, great in your life. If you're successful, great. As long as you don't come after me with some sort of BS, then we should be fine. But to have these expectations of people that are unrealistic, it creates a boundary and it burns bridges. And, um, it just creates the cycle of dysfunction again and again and again because hurt people, and that's all we know how to do. And so if you're hurting and you are letting this cycle of dysfunction pull you under, it is time to anchor in. If I stop anchoring in, I lose me in the process. If I was to let all of the things of the day and the weekend derail me, I would not be in the place that I'm in mentally. I would be in a much worse place. I would have relapsed this weekend. I would have relapsed today. But luckily, I am still into double digits of my sobriety. I'm not where I want to be, but at least I'm not self-medicating. And, I think that being said, I went to a funeral this weekend for an old friend of mine. And this friend died from a fentanyl overdose, and it was tragic. This is someone who was a legend in our town, someone who was wildly talented and loved by many. And after a tragic accident, lost their ability to draw. And he was a tattoo artist, and he lost use of his arm, so he wasn't able to do his craft. And so he let that derail him and went into a world of drug use, and um he died from it. And seeing old friends at the funeral and seeing some people that were there high on drugs, it made me so thankful for my own walk and so thankful that I was delivered of that demon and that I was delivered from that sin. But it took a lot of work and it took a lot of tools. I had a toolbox I was carrying with me by the grace of God. And that's why I created this process of anchoring in. Being at that funeral really made me think about addiction and legacy and the addiction and legacy that's been left in my own family. And I want the buck to stop with me. I don't want to leave a legacy of being selfish and addicted and checked out and on my own, vibe when I could be helping my family and helping my community and showing up for people in, a meaningful way. I might not physically be there, but I am there emotionally and I am there holding space and I am there trying to talk to people. I'm here showing up each day, trying to give a good word. You know, I'm here trying to live that purpose so that when it's my turn to get to the afterlife, I'm not going to have these regrets that I left a legacy of chaos and destruction behind me. And I would encourage you, if you are watching this today and you're struggling with any of those things, it is never too late to make a change. It is never too late to anchor in. And I've been praying all weekend. This weekend has been really heavy for me. I've just been praying that, God will restore our family and God will restore our hearts and God will restore. And I've been, praying to my ancestors that they will help me heal this legacy and this generational trauma and to bring some clarity that I don't have right now. Because I don't have all the answers. Honest to God, I feel completely powerless. I'm all the way out here. They're all the way out there. I'm not able to just drop everything and go. I'm not Captain Save. I can't go save people. I feel totally powerless. I can't even give, my dad a ride somewhere to medical appointment. I feel powerless, but that doesn't mean that I'm useless. And when I started to go into the dialogue that, oh, you're useless because you're not there, I'm not useless. I can talk to people. I can hold space for people. I can be there emotionally for people. I can ask people what they need and try to make a change and try to help with my words. But in order to do that, I have to fill my cup first. I have to put on my oxygen mask first. When you're in an airplane and it's going down, you better put your oxygen mask on first, because if you don't do that, you're not going to be helping anybody else. And for me, my oxygen mask is anchoring in. And that what that looks like for me today is prayer and holding being quiet and not being on the phone so much with everybody. My phone has been ringing off the hook for days, and I am just emotionally exhausted. I am exhausted. And as we speak, I have my inbox blowing up about a whole other unrelated thing. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting to hold space for chaos and for people when they're going through chaos. So I need to anchor in with the routines that remind me who I am and what I'm here for, and anchor into my purpose, So that means drinking my water, going to the gym, you know, feeding myself with good, nourishing content, going to my coaching session with my coach so that my coach can help me. I wasn't going to show up to a coaching session today. I almost just said no. I was too embarrassed of where I'm at in my emotional world to be able to show up. And I couldn't, fully show up in a way that was um not emotional, right? That wasn't like, my coach told me to take a breath. And I needed that. I needed to hear that. We're a link in the chain, right? We're a link in the chain. She who leads is led. Sure, I can lead, but if I can't follow, then what kind of a leader am I? And if I'm not anchoring into my process, how can I ever help others if my cup is not full and I am not able to breathe? And so I'm taking a step back. I'm hitting hard brakes today. Hard brakes. Full stop. I'm almost at the point where I'm not answering messages because I am so emotionally drained. Arguably, I am more emotionally drained today than I've been since my grandmother died. I've the most emotionally drained I've been in a very long time. And I feel completely powerless. So I'm anchoring in because life is gonna life. Because when we stop doing what keeps us grounded and building that foundation, and we stop reaching for the light in our lives for what we need to fill our cup, that's when we get lost, and we get lost in the darkness. So I'm not going to let this chaos sweep me away. I'm not going to be lost to the storm. It's really easy to want to. I want nothing more right now than a drink and a smoke and to just check out and be done. But I'm holding myself accountable. I'm showing up for my good word today, and I'm going to anchor in. I'm going to the gym, and I'm not letting life sweep me away in the storm. I'm still here. Getting my carabiner, and I'm hooking on. Not going to be lost to, the anti-gravity of life. So if you're going through something today, and I think a lot of you are, because wow, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on out there right now. Take a deep breath with me. Remember to breathe. I needed my coach today to tell me to breathe because I wasn't breathing. So take a deep breath. Try to remain strong. But in being strong, try to remain soft and don't let the darkness harden you, you know? So take it one step, one breath, one bite at a time, as Dr. Allegra liked to say. You got this. Anchor in. We can do this, and we can do it together, and together we rise, you know? What's the saying that they say at Alpha Femme? For me, for you, for us, together we rise. So if you combine those two things, one bite, one breath, one step at a time, as Dr. Allegra likes to say, then For me, for you, for us. Together we rise, as Alpha Femme likes to say. Then maybe, just maybe, we might be able to withstand the storm of life because they're never going to stop coming. They're just going to keep on going, and we can't let it take us out. All right, you guys, I hope that I see you tomorrow. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful Monday. Take a deep breath.